Welcome to my kitchen. I'm so glad you've joined us today. Please grab a cup of something hot to drink and sit down and enjoy our conversation. I am so pleased today to welcome my guest, Karen Contreras.
Thank you.
Karen is a registered nurse, and she's going to be talking with us today about supporting someone in the journey of having cancer.
Right.
Interesting topic we would select, but it is a real thing in our life.
It is.
Now, Karen, one of the things that you've been doing a lot is being a cancer navigator.
That's right.
When I think of navigator, I think of me sitting in my car with the maps all spread out, telling my husband which way to drive. Or with that GPS machine.
Yes.
That woman who talks to you.
Yes.
Is that what you do?
It is. I am the GPS for the cancer patient who maybe doesn't really know how to access the systems or even the order in which to access the different treatment modalities. So what I do essentially is when the patient is diagnosed with cancer, I'm available to help them find their testing sites, find which physician they see next, give them education and information on the treatment options, and just generally be available to them. I'm a resource person to them as they go through their cancer journey.
So you're one of those people they can call up and ask questions?
I am.
Oh, how
Definitely,
nice. Boy,
definitely.
I wish I need you in lots of places in my life. Is there particular kinds of cancers that have navigators, or are there some navigators that take care of everything?
Well, typically, larger medical centers will have a navigator that covers breast cancer, and increasingly medical centers then are adding to their whole department by bringing on thoracic or lung cancer navigators, as well as head and neck cancer navigators, prostate cancer navigators. They're trying, I think, throughout the nation to develop a network of navigators that will cover all of the major cancers. As a navigator, I would do primarily lung cancer, but I would pick up other patients who needed help. So it really didn't matter that they were maybe head and neck cancer or prostate cancer. We can help them.
Oh, that's amazing. Now you help them getting their appointments or understanding how to get through. Healthcare is really
it can be tricky.
Sometimes frightening place to go through because you just don't know the language and you don't know the right questions to ask.
Very true. Not only do you not know the right questions to ask, you may get information that is written in a language that's not really understandable.
Oh, for sure.
And very often I have found that patients don't want to ask the doctor, well, what does this mean? What did you mean by saying this? And they leave having questions.
Oh, I know
totally
this happens.
unanswered. So I get the phone call, what does this mean? What does this test show? Are there any things that I need to know before I have this test done? So we can help them with that.
I do know, and I'm a healthcare provider, and so are you, and it's really easy for us to slip into our own language.
Yes.
And it is just so important that when anyone hears language from a healthcare provider that they don't understand, that they stop them.
Yes.
Because really, the only person that can take care of you is you.
Exactly.
Your doctor doesn't live with you. Your nurse doesn't get to come home and cook for you. You take care of you. So that's really exciting that you do that and that we've moved forward to that place. And I'm grateful, and I'm hoping that our television audience, if there's something that you need, that you know how to ask for these things, because it is just so important.
It is, and I think when you are diagnosed, ask your physician, do you have navigator services? Does the center where you are sending me have navigator services? Always ask. It doesn't hurt.
So now you don't only help with getting their appointments and helping us understand how to move through the system. Do you have anything to do with insurances?
On rare occasion, most large medical centers have departments that handle insurance authorization, but there are times when, as a nurse, I can speak the same language as the person on the other end of the line who is reviewing that case for authorization. And I can call them up and I'll say, what is the holdup? Let me tell you about this and why we need to get this done quickly. And very often that barrier is broken down immediately and things move more quickly.
That is so important, because when you're concerned and you know that time is of the essence and time does matter in what you're getting done, and then you're not getting the phone call made and you don't know how to ask the question right, and so you're not getting through your insurance process, that can be really important.
Yeah, it can cause a lot of delays. And with the system that they have in place now for insurance, everything is, as you know, coming under closer scrutiny, takes a little bit longer, and the delays are greater.
Okay, and so that's important. Well, I'm thinking as a navigator, there's other things that you're going to be supporting
Absolutely.
the family and the friends and the patient with. So what are some of those things that we can...
Well, definitely what we do as a nurse navigator, now there are some lay navigators in the community that are not nurses, but as a nurse navigator, when I meet with the family, the patient and the family, I assess what are their systems like. Are they supportive of one another, or are they a fractured family? Do they need some outside support? So we want to make sure that the emotional support is there within the family system, and if not, kind of shore that up by giving them some extra help. The first thing to remember is that the patient is going through a time when they are questioning whether or not they're going to live.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how draining that can be when you have unanswered questions about your future, and you want to find out in some way, and you can often do this just in casual conversation. How are you feeling today? How are you doing? If you notice maybe that they are having more trouble getting themselves up in the morning, getting dressed, doing their hair, maybe they're not putting their makeup on any longer, not going outside, just not connecting with the family and friends. There may be a little depression going on. And if you discern this, you can talk to the family. You know, I really feel that maybe some intervention here would be appropriate, maybe some counseling. Depression can be a huge component in this whole cancer treatment continuum.
You know, something has just come to my mind now, and it's something that I've observed as a nurse, and that is when people are truly ill, well-meaning friends, families, and guests come to see them, and the first thing they say to them is, "How are you feeling?"
Yes.
And if the patient says, "Not well today," immediately we move into the let's chipper them up, let's happy them up, let's jolly them up. Or if they say, "I'm feeling better," you're going to go, "Oh, good." Because sometimes I think we all have our own journey of vulnerability.
True.
We all have our own journey of knowing this life is finite. There is an end point over here. We try to ignore it, especially I think in the Americas, that this is just something that's almost in denial that there is an end point. But when we are close to a very vulnerable friend or family member, it makes my own existence. I question my own existence more. And so because I'm a little nervous with that, I don't want to think about my own mortality, I come to you, the sick individual, and ask you to make me feel better about me.
Exactly.
Have you seen that happen?
All the time.
All the time.
And that is human nature.
I guess.
Our society does not prepare us for death.
You're right.
It doesn't. And so anytime that we can feel that life is going on and okay,
then
we
it's
feel
good.
good.
We're good. Oh, we're good. Yeah. We just gotta be good. Gotta be good.
Just don't tell me you feel bad and you're dying. I hear that.
Gotta be good. Yeah.
So, you know, that emotional component of depression is quite common.
Of course it would be.
And it would be. And so, but there are ways to treat this. And sometimes, on rare occasion, maybe a little medication is in order to get you through that time.
Yeah.
It can be, it has a place. It really does. But the other thing too is allowing the person to feel crummy.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I mean, when I have that diagnosis, why can't I take it inside for a while and let all of that emotion come through me? And for somebody to say, "Don't feel that way." We do that.
And don't try to fix them.
Yeah.
I have gotten phone calls from women saying, "You've got to do something about my husband. He's driving me crazy. He watches everything I do. He watches what I eat. Is constantly asking me, 'How are you feeling? Is there anything I can do for you?' I just want him to back off and let me be."
My mother's would be, "You need to eat.
Yeah.
You need to eat."
That's
well, maybe
right.
I
don't want to
need
eat.
to eat. Maybe I don't want to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just staying focused that you are the friend or you are the spouse and you are there to be supportive and empowering, but not to fix.
I do like one thing, instead of saying, how are you feeling today? A really nice way of talking to somebody is saying, how are you coping with this? Or how are you making sense of this? Which allows that person to say what resources they have within themselves, what it is that they hang on to, without having my value of what it is attached to that.
Sure.
So how are you coping with this journey, or how is this journey affecting you?
And you know, that requires a little thought. And sometimes people really don't want to think about that. But remember that our ability to cope with any situation is a culmination of life experiences and what we've used in the past. And as adults, we tend to take what we have done well in the past and then apply it to new experiences in the future and in the present. So if a person has not really been able to develop really adequate or good coping skills, they may need a little bit of help. But allowing them to walk through the process of identifying what they need and then helping them if they say they need some help is really the better way. So how do you really do that? If you know someone well and you can be honest and have a transparent relationship, that's always the best way. Just sitting down and saying, you know, you really look down to me today. You really look like you need someone to just tell you that you are beautiful and I love you, and give them care, you know, give them that little love that they need. How can I help you today? Not do you need my help, but how can I help? How can I?
I think another thing that I've watched happen is the fact that I put my perceived values of what would be happening, how I would feel in this situation, and I transfer that to you. And I heard a story a few weeks ago that just has blessed my heart, and it was a cancer story. One of our nurses that I know in the hospital was tucking her patients into bed every night, as she normally did. And she went into a certain gentleman's room. He was a middle-aged man, exceedingly great in the job he'd done. He had made a lot of money. He'd lived a fabulous lifestyle. He was, you know, if you drew the successful man, you would probably draw a picture of this man. And yet, he is now in our hospital, not doing well at all. And as she was getting all of her patients to bed, she went to his room and got him ready for bed. And as she's leaving, he said, "Do you have a minute?" And she said, "Yeah." He said, "Could you sit down? I want to share with you the blessing that cancer has been." Blessing? I mean, really blessing. You can be sure she sat right down. And he said, "You know, until I had this diagnosis, I was extremely successful. I was flying all over the world. I was on top of my game. I was busy, busy, busy. And with this diagnosis, I have stopped from all that frantic running. And I've gotten to know what's really valuable in my life. I've learned to love my wife all over again, fall in love with her. I've gotten to know who my children are and how precious they are, and my dear friends, what connections I had lost with them that are all back." Now, I know that just seems really strange, because my natural tendency is going, oh, you know, don't want to hear this diagnosis, and yet blessing. So richness can come out of something that might not seem, and to me, that's healing.
That is healing, and a lot of patients who are diagnosed with cancer, a lot of people who are diagnosed with cancer, take that opportunity to look to see what is important in life. It really is a mirror that you look in and you say, is this how I want to live the rest of my life? Or is there something that I can do better? How else can I do this? And frequently see that. It reminds me of a rather young man that I had as a patient. He was 27 when he was diagnosed, and had a new baby and a 3-year-old. And he just was so angry at his diagnosis, as I'm
understandably.
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I would see people trying to work with his anger. Well, you shouldn't be angry about this. No, the young man had to work this through. I knew that he had worked this through when one day I saw him. He was in his chair having his infusion, and I said, "How's it going?" He says, "You know, we're celebrating my son's 3rd birthday next week." This was a milestone for him. he was grateful for that. He had come 180 to the point where he said, you know, this was really a bad deal for me. It's the hand I have been dealt. I am going to make this work. And it had just changed his whole perspective, not only of his diagnosis, but his life as well. And he is doing well.
It's an interesting parallel that you showed me about the hand you've been dealt. That's something I taught my teenagers when they were not liking life so much.
Yeah.
You know, every day you get 5 cards. You play them to the best of your ability.
That's right.
That's just your only option. That's all that Creator asks of you. That's all the universe asks you. Play it to the best of your ability, and yes, guess what? Tomorrow you get 5 new cards.
That's right.
That's why it's the gift of tomorrow. You know, and you get to do it again. And if you can always look at how it is, and sometimes what seems like a bad hand, obviously for this gentleman, it wasn't the best, but he was able to now look forward to something. And you just determine that because all we have is today.
Is today.
Is our now.
That's exactly right.
So that begs me to ask your next question is, how do I support someone as they start moving into this? This has to throw people into a journey of the soul or a spiritual journey. Whether they're religious or not is not
That's right.
part of that conversation. But how do you see your patients journey through that? And as a family member or a friend, where can I bring support?
Well,
to that?
It's interesting, and before I answer that, let me just say that there has been a reawakening of interest into the spiritual aspect of humanity.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad.
And understanding that it is not tied to religion. And there has been a lot of research in many, many different cultures, whether it's maybe the culture of Japan and China, where they will have different philosophies such as the Taoists and Buddhism and so on and so forth. And the experiences that they have after they have been diagnosed with cancer are the same types of experiences that Christians have in the United States when they've been diagnosed, that agnostics or atheists describe. So it is a human experience.
Absolutely.
And so when we are looking to support someone's spiritual experience, we need to kind of know what that means to them.
Okay.
So knowing a little something about them helps. And as a healthcare provider, as a nurse, I, of course, have the luxury of asking the question, you know, do you have a faith that you rely on that gets you through tough times? Do you have a set of beliefs that help you? Then, you know, are these important to you in this whole journey? Do you belong to a community that supports you in your belief system? And it doesn't necessarily mean a church or a synagogue. It can be a group of friends that are important and support each other. And then, how can I help you? How can we address this together? How can we work together to make sure that this is meaningful for you? And so those are some of the places that I go when I am able. Now, as a friend, how could you do that same type of interviewing process? Finding out what the likes of the patient are, your friend. Do they like dance? Do they like the arts? Maybe taking a field trip up to the mountains or down to the beach where they can spend quiet time, reflective time, meditating, journaling. There are many different ways to touch that inner place that helps to understand what you're going through and to look for the greater meaning in this experience.
I think that's something that, as I've gotten to the age I have, and I think that's part of it. But I also think is that, why am I here and what have I done, and has it been enough, and did I complete what I was destined or created to complete? And I would think that that would be an important journey to be with someone else on. I mean, it could be really significantly enriching, not only to the person who has the diagnosis, but wow, it's serendipitous to me as well, because I get to be there. I get to be on that journey with that person.
And sometimes there is some what we call legacy work that still needs to be done. In other words, what do I want to leave? No, I am not going to die soon, but now I'm thinking about, what do I want to leave behind? What is the heritage that I want to to present to my family and to my friends. And so there are some ways that you can work through that, and there is a process where you begin to journal your experiences in life. And if you're not a journaling person, it's not a problem. You can even tape it, and someone can actually transcribe that for you. That is one way to begin to work through some of those questions and give the answers to those, and yet provide some insight onto your life.
Yeah.
And families who have received this as a gift from a loved one are just amazed by how it has brought that full circle around and connected everybody in the midst of this terrible diagnosis.
That's really lovely, because I guess most of us would like to have that opportunity to leave something important.
I think so.
Life mattered, and I was here. And because I was here, there's something is better or different because I was here. So how have you seen some of your patients do that? You said some of them do tapes.
Some of them actually do scrapbooks in which they, caption everything and note everything. Sometimes they actually sit down with a historian and do their life story. And then they get to the place where they are today and what that cancer diagnosis has meant to them in terms of the unanswered questions. What's beyond this point? Do I know what I want to look forward to? Do I have any beliefs about this? Frequently, people have gone through all of their life without ever thinking of the spiritual aspect of who they are. And it kind of comes as a rude awakening. I have no idea what I think or what I believe about this.
Right.
Let me ponder this and see what this is all about. And that begins to open up new questions. And I had one patient tell me, I knew that I was really on my spiritual journey when I started to have more questions than answers.
Wow.
And
that's neat.
And for her, she really understood that there is more to life than everything I've experienced and understood. Yes.
That's really nice. I know, there's days that I've come to work, and because we're nurses, we do live in this more awareness of the life and the fullness of life, or the less full life when there's a diagnosis that pulls us in, and that there is an end.
Yes.
I think we're more aware of that than many people are, and yet I drive past a beautiful cemetery every time I come to work, every single day, and I go, wow, but for the grace of the universe, of God, I'm there in a few days. So live today to its total fullness, no matter what I have, no matter what burden I have. Live today to its total fullness. And I think that's probably some point that your patients are coming to. I have this fullness. People can be driving down the road, and that's the end of their day. That's the end of their life. It is over. Sometimes a difficult diagnosis, no matter how it is, because we don't want to leave. Most of us have a beautiful life, and we don't want to leave it. But it gives you an opportunity that someone else may never even have.
It does, and I've heard people express that. What an incredible opportunity I have been given to reconnect with relationships that maybe are estranged, settle some grievances that have never been settled, get that done with, and it just gives them a sense of peace. And I'm trying to think of a better word for it, but just this sense of understanding that everything has been settled, everything is good. And however long I may be here many, many more years, or maybe not, such as you just described, driving to work. I've taken care of things.
Yes.
And I'm at peace with that.
I think that's a real difference between being cured or being healed.
Yes.
Healing means today's good.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's what I'm having, and it's good. Are there any resources that could help someone in this time of their life?
Well, I think particularly of some of the online discussion groups, and then discussion groups or 12-step groups and other support groups in the community. And you can usually find those listed in the newspaper. Okay. They do have groups for different cancers through the American Cancer Society. If you aren't someone who can leave the house and you do like the computer, they have online support groups that are available through American Cancer Society again, the Lung Cancer Alliance, the Susan G. Komen Foundation.
Okay, that's the pink ribbon.
Pink ribbon people. Leukemia and Lymphoma Society has online discussion groups. There's any number of those. Then chaplain services at your medical centers very often have support
they're
groups.
Incredible people. I love the chaplains.
They are. And they are not people who are going to try to convince you of some religious persuasion. They are there to help you explore your spirituality.
Oh,
and empower you to know how to do that. So don't be afraid to contact them. That's another really good source. And then again, having a group of girlfriends.
Oh, I know. We can't live without our girlfriends, can we?
No, we cannot.
They're just the best.
You go to the show, you spend a great time talking about what you've just seen, maybe over lunch or something, or dinner. What better way to connect with friends who love you and support you?
Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of reminded me of that old movie Beaches. Remember?
Yes, I do. I was thinking of that.
And that was just girlfriends, and they sat down there, and they enjoyed the sun, and she journaled, and they danced under the moon.
Exactly, exactly.
And
we need that connection.
Yes.
And so those are some of the things you can do.
Well, I've just really appreciated having you here on my show today. It's been so much fun, not only just because of girlfriend feelings, but you've given us a great deal of information that I know will make a lot of difference, not only to your and my life, but to the lives of lots of people that are going through the same thing. You might be having friends, might be in your family, that you're dealing with these kind of issues with diagnoses that aren't our favorite. Things we would really wish would go away and we wouldn't have to deal with and talk about, but we do. And finding places where we can support each other, where this human journey intersects, really matters, really connects. Not only does it benefit someone else, not only does it make their life better, but oh my goodness, there's a part that comes back to us.
Absolutely.
Just enriches us, makes our journey better. And you've given us some great tools today. You've talked about emotionally supporting people, and then the spiritual journey, that there are some places that we can go for help. There's psychologists that help just with oncology.
Yes, just with oncology, psycho-oncologists, and your local psychology association, your larger medical centers usually have access to that.
And then we have good chaplain services, as well as the American Cancer Society. I didn't get that right yet. And then they are great. I really do appreciate all of those things. There's so many things out there. What's important is that you ask. What's important is that you reach out and you touch each other and you embrace each other and you find the journey that's good for each other. And so I hope this has been helpful to you. I know it is to me. And until we meet next time in my kitchen, you remember to stay well and be happy.